Ignite Your Power, the Kathy Mao podcast. And today I'm so excited to have a guest today. Her name is Urmi, and she reached out to me on Instagram and wanted to share her story. And she has such a great empowerment story, and she had to learn to speak for herself. And we'll talk more and dive deep about this because you know me, I love talking about self growth, self improvement, and sharing people's stories is the best freaking way to learn how to grow, to be better, and just, have a good example to see what you can do in life. So, me, if you can introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you for having me, Katie. My name is Urmi. I'm based in Montreal. I work in the financial sector, but I do have a lot of side projects that I am very passionate about. I am a self-published author, speaker, blogger, YouTuber, mentor, and I'm a big advocate of women's empowerment. I'm currently part of the organization called Women in Leadership, and I am the social media lead of this organization.
Amazing. Wow, you're doing so much amazing things. So, like now you're doing all these great things, but I would love to know and tell me a little bit about how, your personal journey and your experiences shaped you to where you are today.
Yeah. So every step-by-step thing that lead me to the next step, basically. And I would say that most of the work just started while we were in the pandemic, because it gave me a little bit of time to reflect a little bit about myself, what I wanted to do. And of course, like I basically had the regular path that everyone has, like you go to work and then you actually no before going to work, like you get a degree and then you start working. But then I had a little bit of more time to think about myself, and I was like, okay, what is it that I want to do? How can I empower other people? How can I become a better version of myself? And so it all started with wanted to get like everything that I knew, my knowledge out there. And so during the pandemic, I started to be, let's say, to get out of my comfort zone. And it started with like creating a blog. That was my very first step of like putting myself out there, because I was very worried about this. I was like, I don't know if this is the right thing to do. But then I knew that I had a goal, which was I want to write eventually a book. So I started with that path, which was, okay, I'm gonna see if I can get out of my comfort zone. And I wanted to use the blog as a way to educate people, as a way to empower people, as a way to share my story as well. And so I started with that, and then it led to like other platforms, like creating a YouTube channel, because I was invited to someone's channel, and that was like it was I was very nervous, because I was like, oh my gosh, everyone will see my face. But I realized how much I actually enjoyed being like on YouTube. So I created my own channel. And then it went on with like, okay, I want to create a book as well, because people ask me oftentimes my story about being a third culture kid. So I started with like creating and self-publishing my book. And right after that, I didn't realize that I was actually creating my own personal brand. And so people actually started to like reach out to me to like go to their shows, podcast shows, to do like, collaboration. And I didn't realize this whole power, it just started with that one little action, but it was like it just became much bigger. So now I feel like people know who I am when I tell them, because there's so many things associated to my name, like I said at the introduction, like I'm a mentor, I'm a blogger, I'm a YouTuber. So there is a lot that I can do. And through all these actions, I realize how much I have grown as a person. Like I feel much more knowledgeable. I feel much more confident. I feel like I'm showing myself as my most authentic self. So I would describe it as a beautiful journey. Yeah.
That's amazing. So how were you when you were a kid then? Were you, you kind of said you had to come out of your shell though. Were you like a quiet kid or like shy? And then you had to learn to become who you're authentically, supposed to be, like being an author, a speaker. It would like, did you ever imagine yourself being where you are at now?
No, never, not even close. I never thought about it. Um, I was a very quiet kid, I would say. I was very like into my studies. Like I loved studying. That was one thing that I very much enjoyed. But I was also like very curious, and I am a very curious person. Like I'm like, if there's something that is happening, I want to know, I want to find some answers. I'm genuinely very curious. curious and I do follow my intuition a lot. Um, but I never thought about being where I am today. Like it never crossed my mind, never crossed my mind to do, things like that, being on a show or like having my own YouTube channel. Because, there is a lot of, you have a lot of self-doubt because you're
Yeah.
like, okay, what if I'm not good enough? What would people say? What if I failed? There are all these questions in your mind which stop you from doing all of these things. But I also thought it's about, just jumping into this and see what will happen. So I took that step to explore myself.
That's amazing. That's super powerful. You also said that you just wanted to write a book. What really got you to start wanting to write that book? Like, what was the message that you wanted to put out to the world? Because yeah, you were scared and the pandemic obviously, helped you get to your creative side, right? But what really got you into wanting to write that book?
But it was always in my mind that I wanted to write a book. I just didn't know when it was going to happen.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it just happened, like one day I just sat down, I was like, okay, I think I'm ready. I'm gonna start writing. But it wasn't like, okay, this year I'm gonna make a plan that I want to write. It just happened like that. And it was
Yeah.
because I was inspired by another author who also self-published her own first book. And I told myself, okay, if she can do it, anyone can do it. And plus, the thing is, I always thought that we need a publisher, but then
Yeah.
after she told me, no, you don't need a publisher, you can just do it on your own. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna do it on my own. And my goal was to basically share a little bit about my story of being a third culture kid because I was
Mhm.
born and raised in Italy and my parents are from Bangladesh. So I always felt like there was a little bit of a struggle that I had as I was growing up, like not feeling like I belonged anywhere.
Mhm.
And so I wanted to write it down somewhere because people were always curious about this part. And I never thought that it could become a story, like something that people would be interested learning about. But when people approach me, they are always interested in learning, like, oh, where did you grow up? How many languages you speak? What are your parents from? What do you guys eat? Like, things like that. So I was like, you know what, this could be a good story. But I also wanted to bring also awareness that from it, like, because I'm sharing also the story from a South Asian perspective. So I wanted to share my story from that perspective because there was a lot of gender stereotypes, there are a lot of double standards. So I wanted to bring awareness that it's not like
Yeah.
um, it's not like so linear and so easy because yes, you're a third culture kid, but then there's that like complexity of also being a South Asian woman. So I wanted to bring awareness.
Oh, wow, that's beautiful. See, that's the story. Like that's what, I love hearing from because also me, like my parents were immigrants and, they came here and it's a struggle. So always listening to people's struggles, I think it helps other people understand like, we're not alone. Like everybody has struggles and, how do we cope with it? What did we learn? Our lessons, those are so great. So what are some empowering steps or practices that have been instrumental in your personal and professional growth?
The first one, definitely getting out of your comfort zone. I think that has been very instrumental because I think sometimes, like, they say comfort is your worst enemy.
Yeah.
I think I also listened to about this in a podcast and I completely agree with that. I think if you don't take that step to get out of your comfort zone, you will never grow. This applies both for your professional and personal life. I also did a lot of self-reflection. I really took time to learn a little bit about what exactly do I want to do and what's the spark in me that I want people to see. So that's how I started with all those tools that I was telling you, like blogging, getting like out there with YouTube. So that was also the second step of like self-reflection, but also taking actions. Because yes, you can do a lot of self-reflection, but if you're not taking actions, you're not going anywhere. And also having like conversation with people that really support you and uplift you. I think it's important. So I would speak about some of my interests with a lot of my friends, and they would tell me just go with it, like if this is what you want to do, go forward with that. So they would encourage me to basically take action. So that was also important for me, like having a good support system. And of course, which another thing that I continuously do is learning. I continuously listen to podcasts, I read books. I watch a lot of things on YouTube, and I think I need those things to basically instill more confidence in me because I can show up myself, very confident to the world that I'm not scared of what I'm saying. So those were some of the things I worked on. These were some of the steps I took to empower myself.
I love those. Thank you for sharing that because it is hard. So that's why community is so important. Having like positive people around you to uplift you, to help you move to the direction that you really want to, Same with me. Like without my family, I don't even think I would be able to be where I am today, honestly. You know, like me being on this podcast, like what? But have such great family support. They're like, you can do it. You got this. Having that, and then also what you said, just learning every day, all the time. Like, I think that's the best thing that anybody can do. And you know what? I feel that knowledge is, one of the best things that you can ever do for yourself. Like, just getting knowledge. And there's so much out there. There's so much free resources, So in this day and age, right? YouTube, like podcasts, there's so much things that are for free. So I love how you shared that. Thank you. Can you share a specific moment or experience where applying self-love and self-care made a significant difference in your life?
Yes, I would definitely say when you get older, you you realize that it's more important to love yourself before you love someone else,
Oh, yeah.
and to basically serve your needs and your wants before other people's needs. And one thing that I started to do is basically put boundaries.
Yeah.
And
Love that.
that was something that I was not doing too much before.
Mhm.
But as I was speaking to another friend of mine, she was telling me that it's important to put boundaries with, like, colleagues, friends, family, because you need to protect yourself.
Mhm.
And I never thought of boundaries from that way because I always felt like, you're putting boundaries, but it's like you're being mean, but it's really not, like saying no, for instance. Because I think the problem was that we are raised as women, especially, we're raised to please people, to basically do
Mhm.
whatever we're told. And we often neglect ourselves. And that has a cost, like we suffer inside because we're not doing things to please us, we're doing things to please other people. So my first action has been to put boundaries, to create a wall, to really protect myself.
Yeah.
And even though it was uncomfortable at the beginning, now I feel very much protected, like if I see people stepping in my boundaries, there is like a signal there that it's like telling me like, okay, you have to do something to push them back because your safety, your protection is first. So my first step has been really to put boundaries, and that's something that I always tell people to do. I think it's important that you protect yourself first, and it doesn't come from a place of being selfish. It's really
Yeah.
just like your own, like it's loving you first.
Yes, I love that. Thank you for sharing that because boundaries is one of the best things you can ever do for yourself. And our society does teach us like, we should not have boundaries. We should people please. It's all about other people, but no, and then you recognize that once you put up those boundaries, your life was better, you're happier, because
Mm-hmm.
you're mentally stable or because it's all about you, which is so great. I love that. And I think that's one thing that we all should learn to do. If you have not already done so, that's a great advice. Thanks for that. Or what advice would you give to listeners who are seeking to cultivate a more empowered and fulfilling life?
You touched a little bit about that. And because I come from a finance background, I will tell you it's to invest in yourself.
Love that.
Because when you invest in yourself, and it's not just like, taking classes, but it's also like trying new things. And that's one thing that I've done to myself, I've done for myself. It's to really take time to invest my time wisely into the things that I love. That means, taking courses, listening to podcasts, reading books, but also like trying new things. Like I started to do, for instance, like boxing. That was something relatively new for me. Um, I would try like new cooking recipe that was also new for me. So I started to like develop new habits and learn a little bit about the things that I was capable of doing. And like even for boxing, like I did boxing, I did also Muay Thai. Like I did not realize how much I actually loved those two, activities. And I like it just changed my perspective because sometimes you feel a little bit like you're hesitating a little bit when it comes to trying new things. And so for me, like when I started to do those things, I always tell people you have to take time to invest in yourself, use your time wisely, manage your time to really do the things that you're really passionate about, and you have to cultivate those things. Another thing that I did was also like be part of Toastmasters, which is like a nonprofit organization that is dedicated to improve your public speaking skills. And that also has been a great journey for me because it gave me so much confidence in me that I can be a leader, I can speak in front of a crowd, and you learn so much by also being like around people because it's a community of people who are there to learn and to improve their public speakings. And you get to learn like so many stories, so many speeches. So you're also learning, no matter where you are, you're also learning. And for me, also, the other thing is that for me, every day is a learning opportunity. Like no day should go wasted. Like I have to learn something every single day. And that's why like I really take the time, like in the morning, let's say I'm going to work, or let's say I'm like walking outside on the street. I always make sure that I'm listening to a podcast because I get so much knowledge. And you really have to take time to invest in your skills because honestly there is no better investment than yourself, and that will pay off on the long run. So that's one thing that I can definitely share with the audience.
Thank you for that. That's amazing advice. It is so true. You really have to invest in yourself. So it all comes back to like self-love,
Mhm.
self-care. This is all kind of related, but investing in yourself is one of the best ways. And what if someone's just like, I don't know how to invest in myself? Like a lot of people are so disconnected with themselves. Like, you know, for me, I'm a twin, so I'm super disconnected. Like as a kid, I always associated myself as half a person, which was weird,
Oh,
I know, right? Obviously I am my person, but then I always felt like I wasn't unless my sister was around me. And then later on, I grew to like learn, like, okay, no, she's her own person. I'm my own person. We're two separate people, but yes, we have similar thought processes, etc. Right? But a lot of us don't learn to actually invest in ourselves, or we don't even know where to begin, right? So, what would you say for you? Like, what made you or know, I guess, to really start learning these little tools because a lot of people don't even know where to start.
you're right. A lot of people do not know where to start, but I think it's a group of many things, meaning that for me, like I started to do all of these things because I was also inspired by other people that I
Mhm.
was following, for instance. It's sort of like a chain. Like I follow a bunch of like celebrities, but I also follow a lot of coaches. I see people making changes. I see change makers. So I would watch those things, and those things would make me think a little bit about, okay, I want to do all of these things. I cannot do it on the same scale, but how can I do it like with the resources that I have available, available with the resources available to me. And it was like really a lot of thinking. It was really a lot of thinking. I also did like, let's say a little bit of journaling. I did also like a goal setting, like I bought this goal setting like a journal type of thing that like you can write down all the goals you want to achieve. And so I would write them down. And because I'm like super determined, I told myself, okay, this is what I want to do. I will make sure that I achieve it. And so, even like creating vision boards, that's one thing that I did as well. Like there are things I want to achieve, let me put it there. And unconsciously, I would do that because I would never look at my vision board only until the end of the year. And then when would look it back at it, I would say, oh, wait, I haven't achieved all of these things, but I did not realize it. It's true. It's like a lot of people don't take the time and a lot of people don't take actions, but really it starts also like in like you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe that you are able to do it because I think it starts from your mindset and then everything else just comes automatically. And I would watch also like a lot of YouTube videos about people always talking about mindset. It's all about mindset. And that's how I would like train my mind as well. Like, instead of saying like I cannot do this, I would say tell myself, I can do this. I can do this. So self-affirmation also helped a little bit towards those things. So now, like if I have an obstacle, I never say, oh, I cannot do this. Oh my gosh, I'm not good at it. I always say, I'm good at this. I will be able to do it.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that because, a lot of us struggle. So that's true. Like what you said, the people you watch, how they influence you. So get positive, you know, influencers in your life. Like go follow people on Instagram that are positive, not negative, right? That's where people can start and then changing their mindset, going on YouTube and getting free resources. Oh, that's amazing. Thank you for that, honestly. Um, if I may ask, how do you balance pursuing your passions and maintaining harmony in other areas of your life? Because, you do a lot, but then I think a lot of people get overwhelmed. They're like, oh, I want to do all these things. And then they overwhelm themselves and they end up just not doing it because they're like, nope, can't.
You need good time management skills. Honestly, you need to be good at that. And I can tell you that yes, I did have people approaching to me and be like, how the hell do you do all of this?
Yeah.
But I honestly use all the hours of the day and I'm not burned out because everything is on a calendar. Like I religiously use my Google Calendar where I have to write down everything that I have to do and I block the time. I block the time because if I don't block the time, one, I will forget and two, I will not do it. And so for me, like every time I have to do something, it's blocked. Like if I have a deadline, it's blocked. I put reminders. And uh, and the thing is, I don't put everything in a 1 week. I just spread it out. I
Mhm.
I completely spread it out throughout the year or throughout the month. Because for instance, like let me give you an example. Because even YouTube, for instance, like I have a YouTube channel and it takes a lot of time because you have to edit everything.
Yeah.
But instead of doing like let's say one video each week, and that means four videos per month, I usually do like 2 videos per month, for instance. So I release a video like every 2 weeks. This way, it's like, I'm not feeling overwhelmed. I'm not feeling like I'm working too much. Same thing with blog. With my blog, for instance, like I don't write every week, I write twice a month. So it's like spread out. Um, and then also like, yes, I do have a full-time job and I have other commitments, but you have to, yeah, again, you have to be able to put a boundary even there
Yeah.
because your work does not define you. And I'm talking about like if you work in the corporate job,
Yeah.
your work does not define you, you define yourself. And I think you also should be able to define yourself without having an attachment with your corporate job, because let's say you're laid off, let's say you quit, or whatever reason, it's always going to be you. It's not you working in this company, it's not you being part
Yeah.
of this company. That comes like with the whole concept of personal branding. And
Mhm.
so like I put a boundary there. Like, when they say 9 to 5 and then you have your 5 to 9, yeah, you can say that I have my 5 to 9, even though it's just pursuing my passions.
Yeah.
But I really work towards my passions. I really work that I'm like making sure that I'm completing all of these things. Like even volunteering is so important for me because I do want to make a change. I do want to help the community. I do want to serve a community and give back. And so I always make sure that those hours are blocked. Maybe it's an hour and it could be just an hour. Honestly, it doesn't have to be the whole week. Like people see me doing all these things, but I'm not spending a lot of time. It's like in an hour, you can get a lot of things done, like if you want to get an interview done, you can get it done in like 30 minutes and you're good to go. So I really use like Google Calendar, like time management has been crucial. And then really I use my weekend to relax. Take care of myself. Like I'm not doing anything else. So you just have to be able to manage your time well and you have to figure it out honestly, because I think a lot of people they just waste their time in
Yeah.
not they're really wasting their time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true, right? I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Like, that's so good. That's such a good tip because a lot of us are unorganized. We're just like me, I know I'm organized, but not in a way. So, having your time scheduled every day, knowing the tasks that you need to get done, that's super helpful. Thank you for that. But it literally seems like you're living the blessed soft life to me, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I always have speakers come on here, our guests, to show examples of this. So, for listeners who don't know what the bliss soft life is, so it's a concept that I came about just one day. I was having coffee, and then this came to me, and I was like, dude, I need to teach people about living a blissful soft life, which is like living in your power, living out your life purpose, like what you're doing, doing your 5 to 9, which you think is not a job, like what you said. You're just so passionate. You love helping others. You want to make a difference and change in the world. It's beautiful, but you know how powerful you are. Look at you. You're like, doing YouTube, you're being everywhere, an author, doing amazing things. So, to me, that's like living a bliss off life because you're living in your authentic truth, and not hiding who you are, your amazingness, right? So when you're living blissfully, right? You're in bliss, you're living in the moment, you're happy, joyful, and everything is just so much softer. Where you don't do you feel like your life is hard? Where you know I guess when you try to like for something, but like you said, you're pretty organized, you get things done. So that's why I feel like everything's so soft. It's so easy for you, like it flows, you know what I mean? So this is what I call the bliss soft life. So do you feel like you are living a bliss soft life in the perspective of what I just told you?
Yeah, actually, I do feel like I'm living a very fulfilled life.
Love it.
And I read the book about, I don't know if you know the concept of ikigai.
No.
Oh no,
Explain to me.
oh my gosh, no, you have to read that book. It's such a good book because talks about the concept of ikigai, which is like a combination of different things, and it tells you how to live your life purposely. I'm
Wow.
telling you, it's such a good book.
Okay.
It's such a good book, and it gives like these examples of these people that live in this island in Japan and how they're doing simple things, but they're living a much fulfilled life and they're living a happier and longer life. And it talks about how you can do simple things. Like these people, they're just doing simple things such as like eating healthy, doing gardening, doing sewing, and they're like happy. They're really happy. And it's like basically the Ikigai is this concept of like it means to live with purpose or something like that, if I remember correctly. And it just gives you a different perspective of life that you don't have to have it figure out. It's not always about, just working. It's a really living your life truly by following your hobbies and your passions. And there's also, I want to say there is a show. No, there was also a show on Netflix that talked about how to live longer, and they talk about this concept of ikigai. So I read that book, and it's after reading the book that I was like, okay, I need to change, the way I live my life because this is the problem. Like, I don't know how old you are, but this is the problem. Like, we graduate from university, we start working, and that's it. That's how life is for a lot of the people. It's just, you wake up, you do your stuff, and then you go to work, you come back, you repeat the cycle again. And
Yeah.
I didn't want to do that. I really didn't want to because I was like, I'm not finding anything meaningful. I'm not creating anything meaningful. I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
And so I feel like we all enter that pattern, honestly, eventually, especially when you reach a certain age that you feel like, oh my gosh. And this is when after a couple of years, you enter into a crisis because you're like, oh my gosh, what did I do with my life? And so I wanted to start early to create meaning to my life, but also to other people's lives. So definitely to answer your question, I do think I live a blissful life.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing that. And, I really want to read that book because that sounds exactly what they're doing. They're living the bliss soft life because they're just, living full of happiness and joy. And that's where we all should be. But, we live in well, I live in America. So corporate America is, a thing. And people are so overworked. They're just like not living in their authentic truth. I feel like they're miserable, sad. It's just sad to watch, right?
Yeah.
And I want people to know that they can do something about it though. Like they don't have to, right? They think they have to, but you don't have to. You can live a life that you want, truly, because we're such amazing, powerful beings that we do get to determine our life, no matter, whatever your life circumstances gives you. Because, right, there are the poorest people, but they become so strong, powerful, and then they become like super rich or etc. Right? Like there's no limitations unless you limit yourself. So I want people to know that. So thank you for sharing that. Um, can you share with me about like, or my listeners, the principles or what you think you kind of live the bliss off life every day? Like how do you do that?
If I could tell you, I did, and I think I already mentioned it, like it's one thing that I do every day is learning. It's
Mm.
that's my approach. I think we should take every day as a learning opportunity, no matter where you are. And I do this also, like I work in the corporate world. I also do that at work as well. Like it's something that excites you, like you look forward to the day. And I have to tell you the truth, like every time I go to sleep, I look forward to waking up and like listening to my podcast, doing some journaling, watching stuff. And honestly, I do take the time, even if it's 10 minutes, to really learn something. I take time to listen to podcasts, and I like listen a lot of the time. It's more about the economy and business because that's that's how I am. But I also listen to things that are more about self-care and self-love and self-improvement. And I very much enjoy listening to those ones because I think we can always improve ourselves. There's always room for improvement. And it does not take you like a lot of time. It can take you just 10 minutes. Honestly, it can take you 10 minutes. And for me, it's important to nurture my mind with that. And another thing that I do is I do read a lot of books. And like I said before, I don't think any day should go wasted. Like when I commute to work, I'm always reading a book. And if it's 10 minutes, maybe it's 20 minutes, but I still make that effort to read a book. And I think it's important for really it's important for our mind, it's important for our mental health. So those are two things that I do every day. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Did you have any last things that you would like to share to the listeners before, we end? Um, Obviously, if you can share, where people can find you, how people can find you too, as well.
Yes. So I'm gonna, one last piece of advice, I would say that you should always invest in yourself. You are the biggest investment. You are an asset. That's how you have to see yourself. And for listeners to find more about myself, so I have a blog called myways.ca. I have a YouTube channel called Urmi Hossain. I have an Instagram account called Urmi. My book is available on Amazon. It's called Discovering Your Identity, a Rebirth from Integration Struggle. And I have my LinkedIn profile. It's called Urmi Hossain.
Amazing. I will link it all in the description below in this episode, obviously. But thank you again so much for being here, for reaching out and wanting to be here to share your knowledge, your expertise, and everything about you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.